Hello everybody, my name is Connor, and welcome back to another Boa Hancock game. I really love my deck. I'm loving this deck. I think that I saw Pause play another Boa deck that I want him to drop the list so I can try, because it had some 3,000 worlds, and I like that. The more removal, the better. But turn 1, we do nothing. Next turn for my opponent, he ends up dropping Duval, which is a blocker. You get to sort the top 3 of your deck, and I don't have a ton in hand. I'm hoping that I'm gonna take the 6 he swings, and I'm hoping that I get another Warlord card that I can play off of Jinbei next turn. And so I take, and I get a 10-drop Kaido, which is definitely not something you play off of Jinbei. And then the top deck was a pudding, so I'm like, oh, my hand is kind of rough. Not really sure what to do here. I swing 5 just to see if I can get him to put another card in his hand, but he does counter out, not allowing me to really benefit off of the pudding. I guess with Ivankov, there is a benefit of putting more cards in his hand, but not at this point in the game. So I Jinbei into Law. I figure if I'll probably drop Boa next turn, but if I don't, I can put some Dawn on Law, swing with him, and worst case scenario or best case scenario, bounce him back to my hand to get hopefully I can get some of these cards out of my hand so I can kind of cycle through my deck. But yeah, so my opponent taps 1 and searches with the buggy, excuse me. Top 5 for an Impelled Down card. And he goes ahead and puts them on the bottom of his deck. And I'm thinking I can use pudding to counter out depending on what they do here. They drop the Mr. 3, I believe, who is a blocker. They swing 5, and I'm thinking about taking it, but I decided to counter out, just because I don't want to take it if I don't have to. And we top deck another Boa, which is great. It's the pretty Boa, which is great. I mean, if I'm gonna play a Boa, I want it to be the pretty Boa. But yeah, so I swing 5. And I'm gonna swing another 5, and I countered out with pudding because I thought I could get rid of pudding is less valuable in this match than potentially Jinbei. So I'm counting how many cards I have in my hand to see if there's any benefit to bouncing Law back. There's not. So I tap 6, I freeze Mr. 3, and I bottom deck Buggy. I don't think I get a Boa ability. 3, 4, 5. I do get Boa ability, and we get a 2k Croc. Okay, so we're cooking now, boys. That's kind of like the best thing about Boa is how the card draw for sure. I know I was running like the 2-cost puddings that bounce back to hand, and I kind of want to add those back in. I don't know. I feel like there's too much stuff I want to put in this deck and not enough room. But yeah, I think I mentioned last video, I'm probably going to tweak a couple things, but this list is pretty fun, and yeah, I'm a big fan. We're probably going to try another deck. I'm not sure which deck, but I'd like to do Lucci. I'm building Lucci, but I'm so bad with Lucci, so I need a lot of practice with Lucci. Or Gecko, honestly, it's just black decks. So my opponent plays out, just drops the 6-cost Luffy, and I am not a fan. But I do have the Red Rock, so I can Red Rock it and kind of just get it out of there. He ends up sending Law back to my hand, which I was like, fine with me, that's fine. He swings 6, I think, into Jinbei, and I end up giving him the Law for the 2k. As I kind of mentioned last video, like I didn't want to give him like a different counter because I know he knows I have Law. So I thought that was a pretty solid option, keeps Jinbei alive, and we do top deck a Tashigi. And Tashigi's really in the deck just to search Gravity Blade and Sengoku. So I do have 6. I tap 6. I Red Rock the Luffy. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No Boa effect, unfortunately, but Luffy is off the field, so that's great. I'm a fan. I end up going 5 with Jinbei. I'm gonna probably go 5, 7, 8. My opponent goes ahead and takes that 5 hit. They do have a pretty low card. They don't have a lot of cards in their hand, so I end up going 6, and then I go 8 with Boa here. And then I guess I'm going to play out the Tashigi to search for some more removal. Which, it's always a little scary to play out Tashigi, honestly, because there's such a good chance you can whiff. But we end up seeing the Gravity Blade, which is... that's why it's in the deck. It is there to grab that Gravity Blade. So, really stoked it was able to do that, especially because I know that this deck doesn't run... I think the only thing that's above 6 that it runs really is that 7-drop Ivankov. So, really happy with that search. Kind of lucky there. My opponent is thinking about adding some Dawn on and swinging. I would assume into Boa. He is sitting at about 2 life, but he swings into Jinbei. I let him go. Jinbei's done some work. And depending on what my opponent drops out, yeah, so they play out Ivankov, and they draw, and they play out Inazuma, which is, it's nice for them. Thankfully, we did get the Gravity Blade the turn before, because we're just gonna send it. We're just gonna get rid of it. Yeah, and then he ends up swinging with Mr. 3 there, and I go ahead and counter out. He trashes a card to restand, and then Inazuma ability gets to draw 2. There is a world where I play out another Boa here, but I think the best option, I don't want him to get too much value off of the Inazuma, is the best option I think is just to bottom deck those 2. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I do think I get to draw. Do I not get to draw? Did I count 6? I might have 6 cards in my hand. It's very possible. So I'm trying to decide what I want to do. I don't have anything I can do with 3 Dawn, so I am thinking about swinging 5 into Ivankov with Tashigi. Just because there's no real reason for me to have Dawn up. So he ends up countering the first hit with Kaya, and we swing another 5 with Tashigi, just because I know his hand size is low. He counters out with, I think that was an Inazuma, and I pass turn. I don't want him to swing into Boa if I can avoid it. I want him to swing it with Ivankov, and so Boa can go and kill Ivankov. He ends up playing Dofi, which is, it's okay. I feel like Dofi's a pretty easy for me to get around. Of course, we haven't seen any Perfume Femurs yet, which is a bit of a bummer, but they're in here. I know they are. So, I have 2k counter in my hand, 5 cards, not a ton of counter. I think I've mentioned a couple times, I feel like when this deck especially bricks, it bricks pretty hard, which can be pretty rough. So, my opponent taps the rest of their Dawn to play out the Luffy, which is a bit interesting, or a bit of a bummer for me. He swings into Tashigi. I just go ahead and let her go. She's found me what she needed. And he swings 7 into me, and I find Perfume Femur. Incredible. I am the luckiest man alive. So now I'm not worried about that Dofi at all. And we have a Boa here, and I can't freeze Luffy, which is, you know, for sure unfortunate, but I can freeze Ivankov if I want. Another option would be just dropping 10 Kaido to get a million cards in my hand, but I do know that my opponent runs pudding. I mean, it's a blue deck. I'm going to assume that every blue deck runs pudding. So yeah, I'm going ahead and I split my Dawn to a 6/4, just because I can drop. I can drop something, but I decide to swing into Ivankov to see what they do. They end up giving me the blocker, so I play Boa. I freeze Ivankov, knowing we were both laughing because we were like, "Oh, we can't freeze Luffy." And then I swing. I think I swing 8 into life. Yeah, I swing 8 into life with Boa, and I think my hope here is that he's gonna swing Luffy into Boa, and then I can retaliate with my other Boa. But that way I only have to worry about the Luffy hitting this turn instead of the Ivankov. But he ends up using Gravity Blade on both of my Boas, which is unfortunate. And then he drops Buggy to get the search. And he was just double checking that it is frozen. Oh, it's not even frozen. It just can't attack. I'm trying to figure out what token I can use for that so that we know, because I know one of my opponents swung and I was like, wait, no, he's frozen with, I think it was when I played Lucci. But he plays the Buggy Searcher and he gets a Mr. 3 blocker. Pretty good blocker, honestly. Especially in his deck. It's pretty solid. Because it allows you to discard a card and don't worry, that was me remembering, oh my god, Gravity Blade, bottom decks, and so I just threw my Boas on the bottom, and we were both laughing because, last time he, wasn't bottom decking, and now it's my turn not to bottom deck. So I end up taking this 2 hit, which is pretty rough, and I get the Red Rock, which I'm pretty thrilled about. I counter out of the 5k leader swing with Ivankov, or with Pudding, and I do have Red Rock, and I think that I need to Red Rock the Luffy off the board, because I feel like everything else in my deck can deal with, especially, because I have Boas. Yeah, so I'm tempted to Red Rock. I'm also thinking maybe as weird as it is, 10 Kaido. I don't want to bounce that. I could bounce. It is an option. I could bounce the Luffy back, but I don't think that's what I want to do. So I think what I want to do is, I'm thinking about Red Rocking Luffy. My opponent has, I think, 1 card in hand, so I can swing 6. Actually, do I just swing into Luffy? That might be a better... Yeah, I think I might just swing into Luffy, because he has to have a 2k if I swing 6 into Luffy. And he doesn't. Okay, yeah, so he ends up letting Luffy go, thank goodness. I was able to get that off the board because that was going to be rough. And I think now I can just Red Rock. Oh, no, I play Boa. I freeze Ivankov again, and I bottom deck he puts it in his trash. It's okay, it's just locals, but Buggy bottom deck the Buggy, which is great. I have 3 Dawn up, and here I'm like, oh man, I was gonna play Dofi, and I forgot to play Dofi. So, I just threw. I forgot to play Dofi, and I threw. This is not good. And so my opponent goes ahead and taps 6 Red Rocks Boa. I put her in my trash. I need to be sending her to the bottom. It's my turn to not put my things in the right spot. And he swings the rest at life, and I take it, and I get the what did I get? I just forgot. Oh my goodness. we'll see in a second. But I'm at 10 Dawn, and I'm thinking it might be worth doing similar almost to what I did last turn, except instead of freezing, I'm thinking I swing 5, or I swing 6. My opponent goes ahead and takes it, and I tap 6. I red rock the Ivankov, sending it to the bottom of his deck. He remembers. I don't. I'm a scrub. And I play out Doflamingo, blocker, and I hope he doesn't have, you know, anything to get through it. I do have Perfume Femur in my hand, so if he does play a blocker, I can, you know, get through that. I also did put the Gravity Blade at the top of my deck, so if I can, I'm feeling pretty confident. If I can live this turn, I'm good. I know. So he ends up playing the Ivankov, which is scary, because if I don't live this turn, if I don't kill him next turn, he ends up playing Croc out off of Ivankov ability, tapping 2, and he plays Duval. And he swings 6, and I give him the 2k, because I don't want him to have some secret sauce. So I end up with what I have. He's basically saying, you win because you can swing with Dofi. You have 2 swings on board. And I'm like, yeah, I also top deck Gravity Blade, and I'm gonna Perfume Femur and just load everything up. And that is game. So really, really close game, honestly. Definitely pretty stressful. When I had to take that 2 hit from Luffy, I definitely felt like I was like really in control that match, and then taking that double attack from Luffy, pretty rough. And I know you guys are gonna flame me in the comments for not bottom decking the things that got red rocked and gravity bladed. So I will remember from here on out. I know it, I feel it. But yeah, happy with the way that game turned out. But that is gonna do it for me, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, hit that like button down below. It helps me out more than you could ever know. Go ahead and subscribe if you are new. And I will see you guys in the next video. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day.